The following is a presentation of KSL Sports. First and 12. A total roundup of this weekend's BYU football and the new look Big 12 Conference. First and 12 is sponsored by Macy's Grocery Store. Your hosts are Mitch Harper and Alex Kirry on KSL News Radio and the KSL Sports Zone.
I gotta say, Alex, it feels like Big 12 football is becoming a reality sitcom where you get a host that just says, expect the unexpected or something like that. That's just what this league is every single week. And I think it's only going to continue in the future when it becomes the 16-team iteration of the league. And that's why now we go to our four-corner check-in by looking at the future members of the league.
The Four Corners Whiparound. We check on future Big 12 opponents and rivals from the Four Corners.
Let's go non-football, but the most local and the most insane news I've ever seen. When we got the press release this week, Mitch, I think we all kind of collectively looked at each other and said, "What?" They said, "Don't tell anybody, but in about 3 hours, we're going to announce that every football scholarship player at the University of Utah is going to get themselves a truck as part of the Crimson Collective and part of their partnership now that they have going with an online streaming or online app service that they have to be able to access for their athletes. It's such an interesting thing too, Mitch, because we're sitting there and we're going, is this real? And I guess at some point we got to look at each other and go, can we even ask that question anymore when it comes to NIL? I would say out of all the deals that have been rolled out of all the most visible things that have happened across the country and how much money is being thrown around, because some of it's done quietly, but the University of Utah announcing that every scholarship player is going to get a truck. Here's Mark Harlan talking about that moment and what the commitment is. If you were wondering what the collective commitment is to these players, here was the moment where they honored the kids getting all of those trucks there at Rice-Eccles Stadium.
And I want to make it really clear in front of these incredible young men and others in the department that compete. This is the priority of the athletic department, to have the Crimson Collective at a level that these guys deserve, because everybody loves the top 10 program, right?
Is that immediately going to just be, are kids signing up going, I want a truck, man. That's where I'm going right now.
I don't think so, but I got to say it's a nice luxury for these guys that, do go to Utah and play there, and they're going to have a fully loaded 2024 Dodge Ram truck leased out, and as long as they're there,
right,
they got that truck. That's a nice perk to just have that. Now, and from what I understand too, they'll probably have some other perks with the truck as well. So it is what college football is about today, and it's just ironic too, because you think, what was it, SMU? They got shut down because of cars, gold Trans Ams,
right.
and now
for one guy,
and now 85 scholarship players are getting
Insane.
A truck. I think it's awesome, but at the same time, you just wonder, is that really going to see a huge boost in recruiting? Because I still think at the end of the day, cash is going to win all when it comes to these sort of NIL deals. And there's always in the SEC these bag men that are ready to just unload the cash, and now it can go above board, and you can frame it as some sort of endorsement. But I think what's going to be interesting, though, Alex, when it comes to NIL, is that now we're starting to see a wave of high school recruits that are signing with programs where they've had a kind of a couple cycles where, as high school recruits in some states, depending on the rules behind that and the legislation, they can make money as high school athletes. So you wonder if it'll get to a point where that's not really at point of mind for as many recruits. Like, yes, everyone's going to want some sort of money, but it felt like the last couple cycles, because it was so new, the opportunities were so new, businesses were looking to get in. You just felt that, everyone's just looking for the direct bag and try to get theirs. But going forward, I think it slows down a little bit at some point. But the creativity, though, in these NIL deals, I think it's only going to continue to ramp up with these teams trying to find ways to get some sort of edge and put their program in a spotlight, because that's what Utah did. This was garnering national news this week.
I would imagine. Can you imagine the moment when one of these guys gets stuck in the snow and he calls one of his other, hey man, could you pull me out? And then 84 other trucks come over the hill to save the day. I mean, just like the amount of hilarity that comes along with it. And my wife did. She goes, "What's that parking lot going to look like up at the practice facility?" There you go. A lot of red, a lot of white, a lot of black trucks, and like you're just going to see. But you know what? The pictures of those kids on the field.
Awesome.
I hope that they really kept that secret from everybody. I really did. It looked like they were all pretty surprised, genuinely. So I was pumped for those kids, and I love that kind of stuff. That's the stuff that makes me really, really excited. Okay. Colorado, we were waiting for the Buffs to get another embarrassing loss to add to it. But, man, Prime teaching these guys some resiliency and coming back, and they end up getting the W. And they don't take an embarrassing loss against Kenny Dillingham and the Arizona State and the Arizona State Sun Devils, who actually put up not just a game, but I would say those guys are fighting for their lives, and they're doing a heck of a job. They just come up short against the Buffs.
How weird was it for you, Alex, growing up watching probably some Big 8, Big 12 games back in the day, growing up in Texas, to think Colorado, Arizona State's a future Big 12 game? I just think, wow, this is the world we're living in now. But yes, it was a good win for Colorado. 4-2 now are the Buffs, and they had a late, 12 seconds left in the game. Alejandro Mata buries a 43-yard field goal. What was crazy too was Arizona State burned a timeout. And the first attempt, it negated the first attempt, which was a miss. And so sometimes calling those timeouts can backfire, but then Mata stepped up and buried it. It was the one game, though, where Coach Prime and his Buffs were completely off the grid because, well, it was on Pac-12 Network, so no one saw it.
Nope.
And that's going to be something that's definitely going to be changing. I guarantee Brett Yormark is already thinking up ways to get Coach Prime just in the spotlight the moment he's done with Colorado or with the Pac-12 and joins the Big 12 next August, because it just seems like Coach Prime will be a perfect fit in this new Big 12 that's looking to attract a younger, hipper demographic and really engage with people on social media.
So interestingly enough, Vegas had the odds at between 3.5 and 4 games for the over/under on wins for Colorado, even with all the pub that came with it. They're 4-2. You could say what you want about Colorado, the dream being smashed, or what was it that Dan Lanning said? He was like, the honeymoon's over for this team. And it may be. I mean, honestly, they've got a rough go the next few weeks, but I feel bad for Arizona State because they're 1-5, and they're just Kenny Dillingham has some talented guys on that thing, and they just are finding ways to fight during these games, and they just do not have what it takes. But they also outgained Colorado by more than 100 yards on the offensive side of things. They held Shedeur Sanders to 230 yards passing. I mean, it was as good of a showing defensively against Colorado as anybody's had all year, and no one cares because it's Arizona State. But I'm one of those guys that's going, hey, I want the league to be strong going forward, the Big 12. I don't want to see Arizona State, just like absolutely hit a stride of garbage, as they start to go in there, especially with kids that weren't part of the problem going forward. So that was the bummer.
Does part of you wish the Big 12 would have gone for Washington State or Oregon State instead of ASU? Now, that might be just kind of revisionist history now, seeing what's happened this season. I know Washington State lost to UCLA yesterday, but do you almost think they would have been better fits? Because it seems like ASU just has no interest in the Big 12 at all. Like they just have no energy.
You could maybe say that about a couple other teams that are coming in, right, who act like they're too good for the league. But I think in terms of brand recognition of teams coming in, just like a straight-up brand play, I think Arizona State is always going to out-duel Washington State and Oregon State when it comes to that. Like right now, your team's playing well. Washington State, obviously, they took their first loss today, but when you talk about like Oregon State and Washington State, just from like if we're going to straight up say it, like a brand sex appeal situation, Arizona State's always going to win that one out. And I think Brett Yormark would say the same thing because he's a brand guy.
That he is.
I don't know if you know that about him.
He loves his brands, and
goodness.
We love having that Four Corners whip around every single week. And if you miss any part of the show, you can subscribe to the podcast First and 12 on KSLSports.com. We'll look ahead to what's next in the Big 12 as we take our final timeout here on First and 12, and it's powered by KSL Sports.